Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Art Whisper 88. This is I call it my monster plate. It is 18 by 24. It is marketed as poster size, but I like to call it monster size because it's really big and I love it. It is a generous gift to me from jellyarts.com. I would like you to visit their website and look at all the different sizes and products that they have. So I will start with my squirt bottle, which I had filled with Mars Black. This is my go-to black paint. This is Mars Black by Acrylic, and I watered it down with a few drops of water to make it fluid, and I'm going to do some scribbles. Now I used to do this with a Sharpie pen, but I find that the squirt bottle produces more interesting marks because you have these irregularities. So I'm just doing swirling movements. Okay. So that's it for the scribbles. Now I will introduce some more solid areas. With my color shaper. Now I try my best to keep it clean, but it's not 100%, but that's okay. All right, now when you wash these, sometimes the water will get into the metal part. It's called a ferrule, and just make sure that the water is not in it yet. So I do this. You can shake it out. Okay. So I'm making some gestures with the color shaper. Now this is a very unique kind of texture and marking. I would not be able to do this with a brush or a brayer. Okay. Then I'll just make sure the edges are clean. So I will, oh, there's a high spot here. just make sure there are no really high spots because they will blot. There. So I will dry this out first with my ceiling fan. If you don't have a ceiling fan, just get a little desk fan. And I had a viewer who told me that the first layer keeps coming off when she puts a second layer, and I explained that it's probably not dry enough. So you really have to be patient and wait until the first layer is dry. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So just be patient. Wait for the first layer to dry. I would give it, I'd say, under a fan, it's like 10 minutes. So I will be back when this dries. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes under the ceiling fan. Now I'm going to use cadmium yellow light. This is Soho acrylic. And my inspiration will be the pop art images from the 60s. Using bright, even fluorescent colors. Because the whole point of those images was to attract attention. And by generating attention, it was trying to break away from the traditions of art during that time. So I will be using my, since this is a larger plate, I'll be using, let me measure it. This is a 4-inch brayer. And as you can see, it's not very clean, but I do this on purpose. I clean it somewhat, but there are a lot of leftover traces of paint. And the traces of paint are what create the textures that you see in the final result. So I have here some different zones of color. I really love this large scale. It's the closest I can get to creating an image that looks like a painting. The irony is, if I do this on canvas, I won't be able to recreate the textures. The textures produced by a monoprint are very unique, and the only way to find out is to do a side-by-side comparison with images done with a brayer and a gel plate and images done with a brush. They're very, very different. Okay, so now that I have the two layers, I will place my Richardson watercolor paper This is a 22 by 30, which is an ideal proportion for this size gel plate. And I will carefully place it on the printing bed. Now, by the way, this barrier or guide was generously donated by a very dear friend, and he's a very skilled woodworker, and I owe it to him to use it. Now, you don't have to have something this elaborate. You can make a registration device with 2 pieces of wood, and I will put a link in the description box below. I have a video that shows you how to make a registration setup using very inexpensive and easy to find materials. Okay, so I will leave this on for about 5 minutes to give the paper a chance to absorb the paint, and by doing that it will create a very nice transfer. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. Let's see how we did here. This is really exciting. I can tell when there's a good transfer. The plate is really stuck on the paper. It's not necessarily a bad thing. That is the nature of the gel plate. It's the sticky nature of it that allows this transfer to happen. You just have to be careful to peel this carefully. I think the textures are outstanding. Now again, it's better to pull this at an angle. It's very similar to the technique when you pull off masking tape. You pull it at an angle and it seems to work better. This is really stuck on the plate, but I think the image is outstanding. This is another example where patience is the key. There's no need to rush and ruin the work. Just do it slowly and carefully. Wow. This is one of the more spectacular pulls, if I may say so. So let me air dry this and figure out the next step. Okay, everybody, here we are at the next step. I have arranged some of my reusable stencils, and I am going to use, this is called Pearl Red by Amsterdam, and it's an iridescent color. And what I'm beginning to discover is it looks white in the tube. It doesn't look like anything, but this dot here is an indication of what it will look like when it dries. It's really an amazing color. And I'm going to use this and overlap it on the image that I had just pulled. And I'm hoping that it will contrast with the black and the strong colors of the first pull. So I'll be using a smaller brayer. Be concentrating on the open parts of the stencil. So this will have a reddish or pinkish cast to it. Now, since this is such a large scale plate, I have to work in sections. It can get overwhelming, but if I break the image down to sections, it's manageable. And since this is a very light color, it will be very easy to spot the stencils, so I can remove them. Now again, I really prefer to use this small brayer because it's easier to control. I can work around the little nooks and crannies better than I would with a larger brayer, because I'm working the brayer like a brush. Okay. I have to work fairly quickly because I don't want this to dry on me. Okay, I think I have them all. So here is the first pull. So again, I will leave this on for about 5 minutes to let the paper absorb the next layer. Okay, keeping my fingers crossed. Oh, the plate must have shifted, but this part is perfect. It's the bottom part that's a problem. See, even with this elaborate setup, it's not foolproof. I still have to be very careful. I do love the image though. I love that. When I was cleaning the plate, it must have shifted downwards. So there's an extra inch here, and then it's not very obvious, but I know it. But like I always say, you strike it for experience. I love this color though. It's called Pearl Red, and it's an iridescent red, kind of a pinkish red. Actually, I'll show you the close-up. So from some angles it looks pink, from some angles it looks white. It's a very fascinating color. So I hope you liked this video. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I learned a few things or two about registration. You know, even with the most careful measurements, there's always a chance for mistakes. But the mistakes are really valuable. That's what teaches you, and you get better and better as you go along. So do not be afraid to make mistakes. They are valuable lessons in learning your craft. So thank you so much for watching and subscribing. Please visit artwhisper88.com. That is my storefront. And the sales of these pieces help to keep this channel going. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.